Greetings, welcome to the open house presentation with Mrs. Mills from Blue Team.
And Miss Burkhart from Red Team.
Okay, so this is what we talked about open house. I'm going to send it to you at home, that way you have an understanding of what we talked about. The curriculum this year is the same as it's been in Parkway for a while: electricity, magnetism, wave, sound, and light, astronomy, and cells and heredity. We start with the easiest and end with the hardest. And you'll notice the challenge students have a e-book that we're going to pilot, but we'll send this textbook home with them also.
And we will register for the ebook at school, so there isn't anything that they have to do at home to get prepared for this.
Okay, so the majority of our presentation is spent talking about grading. Grading has changed, and it hasn't changed in about 200 years. So it's time to keep up with research and best practices. So if you notice in the slide, you'll see 3 students. This slide is going to help you understand kind of why we're changing our grading. If you look at student A, he's the red diamond. He has varied success with packing a parachute. It goes up and down, up and down. So when I have my parachute packed, if I go skydiving, I don't think I want student A to be my packer, because there's a 50% chance he's going to do well, 50% chance he's not going to do so well. If you look at student B, big blue square, he didn't quite understand it the first several tries, but then all of a sudden he had the aha moment, and then he got how to pack a parachute. And look at tries 4, 5, 6, and 7. He's getting more and more successful. This is pretty awesome. It looks like he ended understanding how to pack a parachute. But then look at triangles, the green triangle, student C. He got it in the beginning. He must have gotten some misconception around here and got confused. And then all of a sudden, tries 5, 6, and 7, he could not pack that parachute very successful. So when we go skydiving, most of us are going to choose student B to be our packer, because at the end of that learning period, he understood how to pack a parachute the best. That is what we're going to do with grading. We're trying to get you an understanding of how your child is understanding science content at the end of a grading period, not accounting for the times where he or she didn't quite get it, because we allow for learning to happen, and you're okay to make mistakes in the beginning. Here's another way to look at it.
Okay, so this slide shows you 4 different students, and it gives you their scores on 5 various learning skills. All these students have what would be recorded traditionally as a 70%. But as you can see, they have varied learning skills in different areas. Student A is at about average across the board, which is okay. Student B has some areas where they are really doing well and some areas where they are really struggling. Student C is awesome in 4 learning skills, but his 5th learning skill, the green bar, isn't even showing up on the graph because he is really struggling with understanding. And then student D has a couple areas where they're doing okay, and then about 3 areas where they are really struggling. So even though in traditional grading, all these students would show a 70%, their level of learning and their level of understanding is very varied. So what standards-based grading does is it allows us to kind of separate that grade, so the student and yourself can see the areas where they are being successful and the areas where they need to spend more time working, and maybe some reteaching activities and further instruction needs to take place in order for them to gain the skills needed and to be proficient in those learning areas.
We talk a lot of times about preschool report cards. It looks just like a preschool report card, but you see that your child understood how to count, how to color, but maybe they didn't understand how to cut or how to sit still in groups. So you practice those skills at home while they mastered coloring and counting, and you didn't need to practice those skills anymore. So it's very similar to the old report cards your child used to get when they're little. Okay, so here's what standard-based grading is. We're grading on the standards themselves. So it's basically grading the learning and not what they earned, what they actually learned. It's not based on attendance or effort or participation, or if your assignments were turned in on time, and those are pretty notorious. Like, teachers are notorious for knocking points off for late work. And it is our job as science teachers to promote and to tell you that your child's science grade, not how well they do on turning with their work in on time. However, we recognize that's really important, so we will report those to you, and those will be communicated on the citizenship section of Infinite Campus, and that's what's going to determine their citizenship grade.
And one thing that you don't see on the slide that is also not factored into the standards-based grade is we don't factor in homework or quizzes into the grade. We consider those to be learning opportunities and time for your child to practice their skills, so we don't want to punish them for starting off lower and then ending higher. So we make sure that those things do not get factored into their total score. They are used to show progression as your student learns over a period of time.
Okay, here's a 4-point scale, and the numbers will be going away, but I know you're used to numbers, so we kept them on here. We're going to focus on, is it advanced, proficient, and this should say developing, and this is beginning. You gotta love how things don't get saved. But anyhow, in Infinite Campus, you're going to see an A, P, D, or B for a score on each of the standards, so it's going to be hard to not look for a percentage. So in advanced, it's actually better than we have taught it, and that's really hard to kind of wrap your head around, but it really means that you know a deeper science content. So instead of like magnets opposites attract, you know why a magnet works, which isn't 7th grade curriculum, that's high school curriculum. So you're learning an advanced expert knowledge, and that's okay. Your goal, and this is really hard, it took me a while to really appreciate this, our goal is for all students to be at this proficient area, to be at the 3. And this is the way the teacher taught it. This is the grade level standard. And so we want students to be at a 3, and we can aim for a 4 in some things, but some students have a hard time understanding that you're not going to be an expert in everything, but that's okay. There's no way a person can physically know everything there is to know about everything. It doesn't make sense. So we're going to aim for grade level, which is appropriate, and then if we can get some advances, that's awesome. And if students hit down here for beginning and developing, we will work with them to learn those skills that they still need to learn.
And some of you might be wondering, how is my child going to know it better than the teacher taught it? We will provide the learning opportunities to get your child to this level. It will be up to your child to take advantage of these or to push themselves to be there, but we will still provide them with the learning activities to get there.
Okay, so here we have lots of terms, and it gets confusing for us because Parkway likes to change the words a lot. So here it is currently. We have Parkway Science Curriculum, and we divided that into reporting standards. Those are the categories you see in Infinite Campus. There's 7 in science, and Commonwealth, you probably heard there's 5. But there's 7 in science. They're called reporting standards. Those are the big ideas that go across the whole curriculum, like cause and effect or scale and modeling. And then those are broken down as power standards. So reporting standards are big. We report those to students and parents. Power standards are kind of for us to keep track of the nitty-gritty science details. Okay, next up, how do you figure out your grade?
So right now, our grading system still requires us to enter a percentage score in A, B, C, D, or F. So with standards-based grading, we've tried to kind of merge the two in order to make everybody happy. And we have 5 total things that we'll be reporting out on for trimester 1. This gives you a breakdown of what they need to score on those 5 in order to receive an A, B, C, D, or F. As you notice that the B means that your child was proficient in all 5 areas. B is above average. It is not an A because there is no advancing areas for your student, but a B is at grade level. It is still where we would like them to be, and then an A is above and beyond. So this just kind of gives you the breakdown for what the actual letter grade will look like with standards-based grading occurring.
It was also in the handout for at open house, and we'll attach a PDF, the same thing. Okay, so challenge classes. If you're not in a challenge class, you can end the video here. So long. Have a great day.
Later.
If you're in challenge class, stick around for a few more minutes because this is what you want to hear. It's the same curriculum, the same standards as regular science, but we're going to approach it a little differently. And per the district requirements, we have to have a project a trimester, which is great. The students need it. So try 1, we're going to do Cause for Alarm. It's a electricity-based project. It's a lot of fun, a little challenging, but they can do it. It's making an alarm system. So trimester 2 is the science fair. They don't have to compete in a science fair, but they need to do a project that's eligible. And try 3, probably some sort of sales project. We're going to work on that. We liked what we did last year, but.
And we give directions for each project, so don't think that your child just will be completely left alone. We give them a pretty mapped out plan and timeline for each project in order to make them successful.
And the little guy hanging out here at the bottom, mastery teaching, that's where we're going to diverge a lot from the regular science this year. And we're kind of excited about that. So here's what mastery learning is. The students are working at their own pace. Often challenge students, there's a couple kids that can really move faster, but we kind of hold them with all the other 24 kids, and we move together as a class. Well, we're going to try to work with the students this year so each student is at their own pace where they need to be. So you'll see here what is mastery learning. They don't move on until they understand the standards, and they have to be at a proficient, which is 3, on each of the formative assessments before they move on. If they don't get a 3, they'll be reteaching the opportunities. And it's really an individual way of learning. Here's what mastery learning is not.
A lot of people hear, okay, well, my child's going to be learning at their own pace on their own timeline. what are you going to be doing? Well, our job with Mastery Learning is to visit with the students individually on a daily basis. So we have to keep track of not where just one student is, but where all 24 students are in their learning process at any given time. So it is a lot more work on our part, but it is so much better for your student in our classroom. We will be there to help guide them and be more kind of as a mentor and step in when they need that extra help. And then they can also learn kind of their best ways of learning, their learning styles, their learning methods, what works best for them as an individual instead of us driving the instruction and driving their learning. This type of learning is going to be much more rigorous than what goes on in a traditional classroom.
We start that this week, so I encourage you, if you have a challenge student, to ask them, how is it going? And then for the next couple of weeks, ask them, how are you doing on your learning opportunities? How are you doing on your assignments? Have you started another power standard yet? Just ask them those questions. That way they know that you're on them, and they know that we're on them also. And this concludes our video. If you have any questions, shoot us an email. It should be at the top of your little inbox there. Any other thoughts, Ms. Burkhart?
It's going to be an awesome year, and you have 2 really awesome science teachers that's going to help your kids from August to May. So sit back and enjoy.
See ya.
Bye.
I don't know if you got that.